Hello everybody and welcome to this episode on navigation. We will analyze problems related to navigation and discuss how to tackle them. We will use the package GoRouter to do so. First things first, you should have a clear sketch and idea how you want to navigate in your application. Think how to handle navigation on large screens or on narrow screens. In native Android development, we have a visual navigation graph, and something similar you should create on paper. Make sure you understand how to get from which screen to another screen. Is there a need for parameters to initialize this screen correctly? Will the screen return some value to the calling screen? How is it shown, modal or not modal? So sketch everything and discuss it in your team. And if you think of our little application here it will be navigated to a new screen, a detail screen, and I'm able to go back. And if we do so, the navigation is of the type that we put one screen above the other. And going back is the reversed order. So we're building a stack of screens if we do so. On the other hand, if we think of our navigation rail or of our button navigation, usually these lead to independent parallel navigation graphs. And they are handled in so-called ShellRoutes. So really go through your application, think of different scenarios, how you want to use your application and how the application should behave. If I click Edit, should it navigate to a new screen? Or should it, as it is implemented here, show a widget on the right-hand side or below the list? For example, what should happen if I go to the details page of Julebrand, do something here, and then I go back? Should this details screen of Julebrand be shown, meaning the state is preserved? Or do we want to go back here, starting fresh, most likely without the selection of a person to be edited? In the web, we also have to think of bookmarks. So if I use this bookmark, it should show the same information, the same screen. So the state should be preserved even after restarting, or as I did it here, starting a new session and using my bookmark. So yes, we preserve a state, for example here the counter state, and it remains. Whatever I'm doing here, if I come back, it's the same state. And here you have a strong hint that we have the ID as a parameter to this screen. So which parameters are needed to navigate from one page to another page? So these are all problems. Now we have a look how we solve them. As I said, we are using GoRouter, a widely used library, which is able to handle the problems just described. We typically have two ways to navigate. We can push a page, put it on the stack, or we can pop a page, going back, getting it off the stack. In addition, we can handle parameters like an ID. It can be put into a string. So in the code, I use a folder routing, and as said earlier, I prefer enums instead of strings. So I have a subroute called details and a parameter called ID. And for the bottom navigation or the navigation rail resulting in ShellRoutes, I use the enum top level destinations, which is the home page, the people page, and the counter page. In addition, in GoRouter, we have to define an initial location. So in this case, we start with the people page and be careful with the navigator key. Although from there we have the routes, people and counter, and the people page is the same, we need different navigator keys. So that's a bit of a hassle to define the stateful ShellRoutes. So we have the shell branch starting with the people page. And from there we can go to the details page to go to this page. So we extract the parameter ID, and we might have an additional object person, which may be passed as an extra object. It's really called extra. And for the case that we come back from the bottom navigation, the state is preserved by GoRouter, and hence the extra object is serialized to JSON, and we can extract it using our FromJSON method. So if we just navigate by clicking an item in the list, we get the ID and the person object as an extra. If we come back by using the bottom navigation, the state is preserved and reconstructed, and hence we use this method to get our person object. For the case that we bookmarked and use a deep link like this one, we define an additional provider. It's not necessary. We could also use the people repository provider and call the getPersonById. But as we might need this function, and it's a typical function to fetch a specific object of a list on other screens or widgets, it's good practice to define the provider. It's the function notation again, so we annotated riverpod. We call it fetchPersonById, and then here we have this fetchPersonById ref parameter and return the person object. And here we use the async value widget to show this object as soon as we got it. So this screen should work only if we have an ID. Null will show an error. And if we already have the person object, we simply show it. And if we do not have the person object because we come by bookmarking, so we just have the ID, we fetch it from the server. So that's for defining the routes and how to use parameters. In addition, we want to have this responsive navigation, where we have a bottom navigation or a navigation rail. This code comes from 2 repositories. It's an example in the GoRouter, and it's in the movie app of Code with Andrea. So here I define a class of navigation items. Here I define the list which should be shown in the navigation rail or in a bottom navigation. That's some magic code of GoRouter. And here we show the bottom navigation or the navigation rail depending on the size of our current screen. And here we define the widget itself. That's pretty much straightforward. And here you see how we navigate to the details screen. So we take the context, call goNamed, then we take our enum and pass the ID enum as a parameter, and the value is a string, as in deep linking and URLs you have strings. And in addition, we pass the extra parameter, the extra object, which is our person of the list we tapped on. So that's all for navigation. If you have any problems not covered in this video, please let me know. See you then. Bye bye.